Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. Thanks for listening. Today, we've got a very exciting episode. We are doing another budget Precon upgrade for the March of the Machine decks. This one is Esper Knights. It's called Cavalry Charge, and I brought in another special guest to do this upgrade. It's Damen Lenz.
Hey, everybody. I'm Damen. I'm the podcast editor, so I will be editing this in the future. Hello, me, and hello, everyone.
Thanks for doing this upgrade. This is a super sweet deck. It's three colors. It's Esper, so it's white, blue, and black. Today, the budget upgrade that we're doing is we're adding 10 cards into the deck. We're taking 10 cards out, and we're keeping a tight budget this time around of only $10. You bought the Precon, you don't want to invest a ton more money in it, but you still want to get it in tip-top shape. So we're only going to do $10 and take some cards out and really tighten up the synergy in this deck. Make sure it's playing as well as you want to at your next game night with your play group at your game store.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Not only is Esper my favorite color combination, but my favorite strategies in general in Commander are tribal strategies, and this is a tribal deck.
Look, see? You nailed it.
So this was like, when I saw that this one was available, I was like, yes, this is the one I have to do.
Snagged. Well, I'm so glad that we have you doing it. If you hear any cards in this episode that you were excited about, that you're like, I gotta pick it up, go to cardkingdom.com/command. You can pick up all of the cards that you want in the printing and the condition that you want. And you can support the show while doing it. We know you're going to buy cards. We know you're on scrolling through shopping for Magic cards right now. You can do it and help the show at the exact same time. Plus, Card Kingdom has a huge inventory, so you can get exactly the printing you want in exactly the condition you want, and it'll show up all in one little package on your doorstep. You can take out all of the cards that you ordered, put them right into sleeves, and shuffle up your deck. You don't have to chase envelopes in the mail and be like, did that ever get here? When did I order that? Did I order that?
Yeah, that is honestly the best part about Card Kingdom is you're getting all of it at once as opposed to getting a bunch of packages all separate at random times. And you're just like, oh, I ordered this thing. Can't wait to get the rest of these cards in 2 weeks. Card Kingdom, you don't have to worry about that. It's just like you're going to get it all as soon as possible, all in one package. You're set and you're ready to go. So.
Pretty good. Cardkingdom.com/command. Support the show, buy some cards. And you can also support the show by going ultrapro.com/command. UltraPro has some of the best Magic accessories in the game. They've got the awesome dice and sleeves and deck boxes, play mats. They have the official Magic licensing, so you know that the art, if there's an art that you fall in love with, you can go to the UltraPro website and see if you can rep that art. Especially with the Precons like this one, they often make accessories that go along with each one. So if you're like, you know what, I'm all in on Esper Knights, you can go to the UltraPro website and see if you can get the deck box and the sleeves and the playmats to match. Show up with a decked out battlefield to your game store and they'll know exactly what you're playing.
That's right. You got to intimidate your opponents, and nothing is more intimidating than seeing somebody completely dressed up with the matching playmat, sleeves, deck box, and commander, and you're just like, whoa, this person's serious.
Has a brand and they're here to play. Make sure you're going to ultrapro.com/command to get all of the accessories to look cool, but also protect your game pieces and make sure that they are organized and safe. You can also support the show directly by going to patreon.com/commandzone and become a patron of the show. It's the best way to support us because you know all of that is going directly into making the show even better. Plus, you get some perks too. You get to see extra turns early, you get to see game nights early, and my favorite thing about this is that when you watch a day earlier than the general public, our patrons get to like catch things and be like, did you mean to do that? And then we have one day to be like, oh, we're going to fix it before we release it to the general public. Very cool. Plus, you get exclusive content like turn talks, which is one of my favorite parts about doing extra turns. You get to talk and reflect about the game and how it went, what you would have done if you had just one more turn. It's a ton of fun. So make sure you become a patron because we also dedicate one episode to one lucky patron, each episode to one lucky patron. And this episode is dedicated to Eduardo Mies.
Mies?
Eduardo.
Mies.
You rock.
You rock.
Thanks for supporting the show. It means a lot. All right, let's get into the main topic. We're getting into the Cavalry Charge Precon from March of the Machine. Remember, one machine.
Just a single machine. All will be machine.
All will be one machine.
That's right. The whole every plane is one machine.
The card, that's March of the Machines.
There's March of the
set,
Machines.
one
but
machine.
then there's just the one machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally different machine.
Of course. All will be one machine. Okay.
We are going to give this Precon a little bit of a tweak. We're going to add 10 cards. We're going to take 10 cards out. But before we do that, we need to know what's in the box.
What's in the box?
We need to start with the deck.
That's right.
So these ones are kind of special. They come with 100 cards like all Precons do, but they also come with 10 plane chase cards, 5 new ones, 5 reprints. So those plane chase cards aren't in the deck. They aren't part of the overall strategy of the deck. So we aren't going to consider them when we're talking about the strategy, but they will factor in when we're talking about the financial value in the box because they do add value. Just a little heads up. All right. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Who are the commanders of this deck, Damen?
Yes. So the face commander is Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. It is 1 an Esper for a 4/3 legendary creature human knight. It has Eminence, the return of Eminence. Didn't think that would ever happen.
What?
Yeah, didn't think that would ever happen. What was that? Commander 2017?
I don't know.
Was
it was before me.
Yeah, the one with Edgar and Inala and all the other ones.
The Ur-Dragon.
Yep. The Ur-Dragon and the cat one.
The cat
Erebos.
one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they brought Eminence back, so that's wild. So
all right.
Yeah. So okay. So what does this Eminence ability do? Well, it says whenever you attack with one or more knights, if Sidar is in the command zone or on the battlefield, you draw a card, then discard a card. So you loot. Note with that, it's whenever you attack with one or more knights, so you only ever get one trigger per combat.
Look, they're a little controlled with the Eminence ability. Crazy.
Yeah, I know. They actually restrain themselves a little bit, which I guess is good.
I guess. It's still very powerful.
Yeah, just a free loot every turn as long as you can attack. And it's not even deal combat damage. It's just swing. Yeah.
Cool.
Anyways,
okay.
All right. So again, it's a 4/3. It has flying and first strike. Mm-hmm. And whenever Sidar deals combat damage to a player, you return target knight creature card from your graveyard straight onto the battlefield.
Okay. So this is a 4 mana, 4/3 flying first strike.
Yep.
That is a free looter the whole game.
The whole game.
As long as you have a knight that can attack all the time. And then it just reanimates the best knight in your graveyard if it connects. Well, like, who's going to block a 4/3 flying first strike?
That's what I'm saying. So it already has one of the best evasion abilities of the game, that being flying.
Yeah.
But then adding first strike onto it so that they can't even like throw 3 little, tokens in front of it or anything like that. Like, no, this thing also has first strike.
That is a powerful knight. Way to go, Sidar Jabari.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, well, that's the face commander of the deck. Who is our secondary commander, our second option here?
Yes, so our secondary commander is actually 2 because it's the team up.
Ah, yes.
So it's Elenda and Azor for 3 generic and Esper. You end up with a 6/6 legendary creature, Vampire Knight Sphinx. It has flying and ward 2. Whenever Elenda and Azor attacks, you may pay X and Esper. If you do, draw X cards. At the beginning of each end step, not just yours, each end step, you may pay 4 life. If you do, create a number of 1/1 black Vampire Knight creature tokens with lifelink equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is sort of something else. This is also a huge flying attacker. Is a 6 mana 6/6 flyer this time with ward 2. When it attacks, you have the option to draw cards. It's not a great rate, but you have the option. And then you can just make a free board of stuff as long as you're drawing cards.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting because normally I'd read that and think, oh, that's going to be like a life gain payoff, but it's not. It's a card draw payoff.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. It's a little less knighty.
Yes.
Obviously, it makes knights.
Right. And it is a knight.
It is a knight itself, but it isn't focused on knights exactly. Not as much as Sidar is.
Right. It more cares like how many cards you're drawing in one particular turn,
right.
Or since it's each end step, how many cards you're drawing on everybody's turn. But it doesn't actually care about the knights part.
Right. Okay. But it makes a lot of knights. So that's interesting. It feels like they're very different builds, even though Sidar is a knight commander that draws. So Sidar is a knight commander that draws. Elenda is a draw commander. Elenda and Azor is a draw commander that makes knights.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
They sort of do the inverse.
They're just swapped. Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, this is fun because this is a new playable Esper commanders. We don't have that many of them.
Yeah, I mean, we just got the Esper Urza in Brothers War,
Right,
which was
a selection from New Capenna.
Yeah, but we don't really have a Esper tribal deck, which is very different. Not one that immediately comes to mind. I mean, you could argue maybe
there's zombies.
Yeah, you could argue like there's a zombies one. A Layla is kind of fairies, but that's more like artifact or enchantment payoff. This one is just straight up, I'm just doing the knights thing.
Very
and the
fun.
other very interesting thing about it is traditionally knights have been Mardu. So this one swaps the red for a blue and goes in a little bit of a different direction, that being reanimate and a little bit more value, less aggressive.
Definitely. Cool. I'm super excited about this deck. So we're going to get into what is actually in the box, what the 99 looks like. We like to talk about the different categories of cards inside, so you get an idea for how the deck is designed to function as it was built at Wizards. So we're going to break down the stats. Well done.
Stats.
All right. So we like to talk about how much ramp is in this deck.
Of course.
Some very expensive commanders. Elenda and Azor is 6-mana commander. Sidar's only 4. How much ramp is in it?
This deck has 10 ramp cards.
Okay.
Which is
a little lower than some of the other decks in these precons, but like a respectable number.
Yeah, that's exactly where we have our deck building template at around 10 pieces of ramp, which this has. So, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not upset or anything.
Yeah, I think 10 feels about right, especially for an aggro deck where you kind of want the curve to be a little lower.
Yeah.
Okay. The next category is card draw.
We have 14 pieces of card draw.
That's a great number for Precon.
That's an awesome number.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, a little bit above. This one's a little bit above what we put as our average for our template, but I'm very happy with that. If I have a choice to be oversaturated in something, it's card draw.
I would absolutely. I would rather for these precons to be lower on ramp and longer on card draw.
Yeah.
Because that means that you're hitting the ramp you need, you're hitting your land drops importantly. And if you're like, I have lots of mana, I need gas, card draw also gets you that.
Yep.
It helps smooth over the plan. So if there are bumps, card draw gets you out of it. Whereas like other categories are not as good.
Yeah, and the nice thing with these, for new players, you're always going to have something to do because you're always drawing cards, so your hand's always full. So you have plenty of options. And so it's just really nice to see. I'm very happy with that number.
Yeah, for sure. That's an exciting number. So then the next one we talk about is single target removal. So target creature, target artifact, get out of here.
Yeah, target anything, get rid of it. This deck has 8. Which is a little bit low.
A little low.
I would like that number to be a little bit higher, especially in Esper colors, which have...
Yeah, you'd think.
Orzhov already is like the best removal color, and then you sort of throw blue in that, which can interact in different ways that those two colors can't. So being an Esper and being in a very targeted removal-centric colors, I'd want that number to be higher.
Yeah. I mean, you have the card draw to get you out of it if you don't draw that removal you're looking for, but really we'd like this number closer to 10.
Yeah.
Or even above that. All right, the next big category is board wipes.
This deck has 3.
3 of them.
Yeah, which I think is a little bit too much. You're a creature deck, so I don't know how many board wipes you actually want to have.
Even with Reanimator, like you have to get your commander down and attack and connect to reanimate. So it's not really an explosive Reanimator deck. It's more of a grindy one.
Right.
3 is a little high for me these days. I'd usually prefer 2.
Yeah, if I'm not in a dedicated control deck, I really don't want 3. I really want 2 or sometimes even 1.
Yeah.
So seeing 3 here is a little surprising since this is a creature-based strategy, but that's what it has.
And then lands, of course.
Yeah, there are 39 lands in this deck.
That's a lot.
That's an absurd number of lands. I guess they really don't want you missing your land drops, but then they have plenty of card draw to get you out of those situations. So I don't understand why 39. That's too many.
39 seems high. I mean, I like 38 as a good starting number where you're like, I just start with 38 and then I can adjust from there and see how the deck feels, especially for like a younger, lower power deck that I haven't tested a whole lot.
That makes sense.
I like starting at 38, but usually I sort of swap out a couple of those for modal spells, some modal lands. And so 39 just on their face lands feels like a lot. But I guess you could loot some of it away if you have Sidar in the command zone.
I guess, but then you'd want to be looting away knights for his ability.
So
I
you
don't
can
know.
reanimate knights. All right, well, we're going to get into the stats that actually matter to the commanders.
That's
right. we were talking about all the nuts and bolts that make any commander deck work, but this next group of statistics is about making these commanders do their thing.
Right, these are the deck-specific stats.
Okay.
So we're going to have knights. We have 31 knights.
Pretty good.
Yeah, respectable.
Yeah. When we talk about a theme in a deck, you usually want it's between 25 and 30. So 31's a great number.
Yep. And we have 10 cards that create creature tokens.
Okay.
Which is like, yeah, that's fine. And,
most of them are probably making knights.
Yeah. Fun fact, they're making knights.
Yeah.
And then we have 8 pieces of recursion.
Very good. I mean, especially in a deck where with a looter in the command zone, it's nice having recursion. Just to, if you pitch something, you know you're going to be able to get it back and set up some of those value pieces.
Yeah, especially since this loot is literally free. You don't even have to play your commander.
Free.
You having a little bit of recursion is definitely a good thing.
Definitely. All right. 8 seems a little low. I usually like a lot of recursion, but that's how I build.
And hey, nothing wrong with that. You obviously know what you're doing. So.
Okay, so we've looked at what's in the box and we've broken down a little bit of what the deck does. Just your first impressions of the deck, especially looking at the bones of it. Who do you think goes in the command zone?
Oh, I think there's no contest. I think you play Sidar.
Yeah.
The deck cares about knights. He cares about knights. He gives you the free loot engine, which is really hard to beat. Again, you don't even have to play him.
Right.
And then on top of that, Elenda and Azor, as we talked about earlier, cares more about sort of how many cards you're drawing as opposed to how many knights you're playing.
Right.
So for me, it's no contest. You should be playing Sidar if you're doing this Knight Tribal deck. And on top of that, this might end up being the best commander for Knight Tribal, period.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised just because of how powerful an ability Eminence is.
Definitely. I mean, it's so hard to argue with an ability that you cannot interact with and that your opponents cannot interact with and is just completely like mana free. I definitely agree here. I think Elenda and Azor makes a cool deck and was a different deck. It's cool in the 99 of this for sure.
Oh yeah, I love that it's a knight and it'll give you more knights, which Sidar cares about.
Reanimator target.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a sick card. It's just it's not quite what this deck wants to do.
For sure. Okay. Now that we know a little bit about what's going on, we're going to talk about. We've talked about the card value of the deck, but we're going to talk about the financial value that you get out of just buying this product. We like to compare the reprint value of all the precons that we go through, and we compare them before the cards are released. So a lot of the prices that we're talking about, a lot of the value we're talking about now will go down once the contents of these precons are released. But we're comparing all of these precons at the same time, so it's about relative. All right, so let's talk about the overall reprint value of this deck. I will provide the drum roll and you will provide the number.
I got it. The total reprint value is $120.30.
120?
Yeah, that's a high number.
That's insane.
That's very, very good. I could not be more pleased with that number. I mean, you could always be more pleased, but that number is great. Like I am super happy with that number.
That's significantly above average of the precons that we've seen in the past, especially with this like rough MSRP. Obviously, we don't have an actual MSRP, but these usually cost about the same, $40-$50.
Yeah.
So if you compare it to like Commander 2019, which was only about $80, the Neon Dynasty precons were $73. And you could compare those to the like Forgotten Realms ones, which were about $115. That's the highest average that we've seen in recent years, is the $115 from the Forgotten Realms commanders. But in the last few sets, Baldur's Gate was only was $104, Brothers War was $95, All Will Be One was about $101. So this is about $20 over the average of the most recent set.
Yeah, this number is great. I'm very happy with this number. As you said, like it beats out the average across a ton of these decks. And I'm happy. I broke my curse. The last upgrade guide I did was the Shorikai deck, which was really low.
Which was really
and this one's really, really high.
The Shorikai deck was so fun. It's a shame there was no value in it.
And I know for me personally, with these precons, I'm really happy if their average value is about $100.
Right.
I know like building a deck at $100 value is something you have to intentionally do.
Right.
So anytime that they meet that or they surpass it, I'm really happy. If they're below that, I'm a little bit like, then I need to really care about what's in the deck. But at 120, I'm through the moon.
It just feels like a good value at this point. So, I mean, there must be some amazing reprints in this deck. That number doesn't come from nowhere. We're going to talk about the notable reprints in the 99 of this deck. There are 70 reprints in the whole deck, so that $120 is divided up among 70 reprints. There are 4 cards that are worth $5 or more. There are 9 cards between $2 and $5, which means these are going to be some high prices. All right, well, let's talk about the cards that are more than $5.
Okay, so the first one we have is Vanquisher's Banner, hovering around $20.
Wow.
We had
all the way up to $20.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that too. I did not realize that card has just gradually crept up. I guess, I mean, we do keep getting more and more tribal support, so I guess it makes sense.
A much needed reprint. Glad to see that.
For sure. And then we have Adeline Resplendent Cathar, around $14.
So very powerful knight.
Yeah, very, very good card, and it happens to be a knight, which is just perfect. We have Hero of Bladehold, hovering around $12.
Wow.
Also a very good card. And then we have Herald's Horn, as I like to call it, Geraldo's Horn, hovering around $10.
Herald's Horn, they cannot keep the price of this card down.
I know.
They keep reprinting it, and it does not drop under $10. So glad to see it reprinted again, especially because it's such a beloved tribal card.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, this is amazing. There's 4 cards in this deck that are over $10. That is rarely the case.
Yeah, and one of them's at 20.
At 20.
Double that, which is wild.
I mean, like, we're looking at a lot of these precons, and this one is by far the most expensive in terms of reprint value, and a lot of the precons that we've been looking at in this set don't have a single card over $10.
Really?
So, yeah, they're all like the highest is at 5 or at 7. So the fact that there's 4 cards above $10 says a lot for the value of this deck, and it's exactly what we want to see.
Yep.
These are cards that are getting played in Commander. We need them to be accessible, especially tribal cards that go in so many decks. So very exciting.
For sure. I know how to pick them.
All right, let's run through the $2 to $5 cards. Often these are cards that get reprinted a lot, and we just need to keep those prices down because they're great.
Yeah, so we got Voner, Butcher of Magon at $4.50. We have Promise of Loyalty at $4. Path to Exile at $2.80. Sir Conrad the Grim at $2.30. Soul Ring apparently up at $2.30.
Can't keep a good ring down.
Yeah. The next 2 cards are actually Plane Chase reprints.
Yes.
So that's going to be Turi Island and Sokazin, both at $2.30. And then back to regular cards, we have Knight Exemplar and Corpse Knight, both of those at $2. So
these are some great cards. It's always nice to see them get reprinted, so they're staying at accessible, like budget-ish prices.
Yeah, and it's really nice because one of the first things that I did when I looked at this is I was like, oh, what are some good Knight cards? And I looked through it and I'm like, oh, that's already in the deck. Oh, that's already in the deck. Oh, that's already in the deck. So it's really nice. Like a ton of those are cards that you'd want to put in this anyways, and it comes with them. So
makes these upgrades so much easier when they start with a lot of the cards that you're already looking for.
Exactly.
All right. Well, before we get into the upgrade, I want to talk about the best cards that are already in the deck. The 2 that if you're in your hand, you're like, I feel good. I feel like my plan is in place and is going to happen.
Yeah, so the first card is Knight Exemplar. It is 1 white for a 2/2 creature human knight. It has first strike, and other knight creatures you control get +1/+1 and are indestructible.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, knights.
Knights. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this card's great. This is exactly what you want. It's like a buff for your whole team, and it's board protection. Huge.
And that's really important for any creature-based strategy. You want a way to protect your board. This does it on the battlefield, and it acts as an anthem. Most tribal decks don't have this type of effect, but Knights do, and this has it, which is fantastic.
Indestructible says a lot about the robustness of Knights.
Yeah,
the strength and armor of them.
Yeah, they're just super tough. They have the best armor. They really shelled out.
Yeah, they've got horses. That's a lot about. Horses are indestructible.
That's right. They've been doing a lot of increasing their budget and their defense spending. So that it's really nice to see, seeing that money go to good use on their knights.
For sure, yeah. Indestructibility, huge. This next one is not board protection, but it's a lot of recursion.
Yeah, so it's Hakon Stromgald Scourge. It's 1 black for a 3/3 legendary creature, Zombie Knight. You may play Hakon Stromgald from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else.
Just the graveyard.
You can only play him from your graveyard. And as long as he is in play, you can play knights from your graveyard. And whenever he's put into a graveyard from play, you lose 2 life. So that part, not good. But the rest of it is great.
That's okay. So yeah, it's so good with this commander because you draw a card, you discard Hakon. Now he's in your graveyard.
Yep, now
you
can play him.
Cast him. So you cast him from the graveyard. And now you just have access to every knight you discard from your commander. Yes. And it just basically turns that looting into actual card draw.
Yeah, it turns the card selection into raw card advantage.
Right, yeah.
He's a payoff for discarding, which is something you want with a free discard outlet in the command zone, and not only for himself but for the rest of your knights. And the fact that he calls out knights and lets you play all of them is just fantastic. So these two cards really take the cake.
Really, really strong in this deck. I love that they include a HACON. He's such a dope. All right, we are going to get into the guts of this upgrade in just a few minutes, but first, we're going to hear a few words from our sponsors.
The Eldrazi are ravaging Zendikar! Chandra, Flamecaller, call forth your flames!
No can do, Gideon.
But the Eldrazi!
I called my flames 3 times this month, and my phone bill is crazy high. Plus, inflation's burning through my bank account, so...
My Pyro Paisan, you must switch to Mint Mobile. They offer premium wireless service for only $15 a month.
Whoa, are they having a fire sale?
Not at all, my incandescent comrade. By going online only, Mint Mobile eliminates the cost of retail and passes the savings on to us. With unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network, I call my allies every day to let them know I'm still alive.
And you got to keep your number in contacts?
Correct, my fiery friend.
Wow. In that case, I'll call my flames right now. Oh, hey, Flames. Yeah, can you toast this noodly fool? Thanks.
To get your new wireless plan for $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/command. That's mintmobile.com/command. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/command. Hail, I am Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, the cloning connoisseur. When you copy a creature, you can get major discounts on a massive 8-drop. But these days, the true master of discount duplicates is RAYCON wireless earbuds. So many audio products overcharge for their fancy name brands, but RAYCON offers an affordable clone with the very same top-tier sound. And their earbuds come with many rogue-friendly features. Awareness mode helps me stay vigilant, while the simple tap functions give me instant speed control. And with inflation breathing down my 1,000 necks, RAYCONs were the ideal purchase. They even offer free returns and buy now, pay later options. So it's no wonder they have over 50,000 5-star reviews. Of course, my favorite thing about RAYCONs is using them to make my clone calls. Hello, this is actual coma, not a clone. I'd like to order 1,000 anchovy pizzas, please. Priceless.
Go to buyraycon.com/command today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/command to score 15% off. Again, buyraycon.com/command. Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer.
Hey Rachel, Foundry Inspector. It's a good ramp card, right?
Sure, it's cost reduction, so the more spells you cast, the more mana you save.
Well, Honey does basically that, but for money.
I like money. Tell me more.
Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for coupons and promo codes, so you don't have to. All you do is install Honey and shop online like you normally do. Then when you get to checkout, just click Apply Coupons, and Honey will automatically find any working promos you can apply. And it doesn't just work on desktops, it works on your iPhone too. Just activate it on Safari on your phone and save on the go. No matter what you're buying, dog toys, desk lamps, monitors, video games, Honey can help you find deals on just about anything.
So it's just strictly better than shopping normally?
Yeah, last week I was looking for a new Bluetooth speaker, and Honey found me a $35 cashback deal.
Huh, that's just enough to buy you a Ristic study.
I'm way ahead of you.
Josh, you have a problem.
Yes, I do. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. Get PayPal Honey for free at joinhoney.com/commandzone. That's joinhoney.com/commandzone.
Hey, welcome back. We are still talking about the Cavalry Charge budget upgrade. This deck is sweet, and we're going to tell you 10 cards that you can add to this card to really tighten up the synergy, make sure you're taking full advantage of your commander, and you're going to be ready to play at your local game store or with your play group. You're going to be ready to night it up. Remember, we're working with a tighter budget this time around. We're only doing $10. So 10 cards, $10, trying to make sure that your buck really goes as far as possible.
That's right.
All right. So first, before we get into the specific cards, I want you to, what was your general impression of the deck? What did the deck really want?
So first off, I was very impressed with this deck. As we talked about in the deck stats, it hit a lot of the numbers that I wanted in terms of ramp and card draw. I felt it was a little bit wanting for removal, so that was something that I wanted to shore up. The other thing was, Sidari's triggered ability triggers anytime you attack, which makes me think that I'd want to have as low mana value knights as possible. That way I can get in as early as possible so I can start that loot, start getting that card advantage.
Yeah.
There were no 1-drop knights. No, there was one drop knight. Yeah.
It really feels like you would want a knight down on 1 so you can immediately, like on turn 2, you can draw a discard. On turn 3, you can draw a discard while people are still ramping.
Yeah, so that to me was a little surprising. So that was one of the important things that I wanted to shore up was that. The other thing was this deck didn't have a ton of punching power. It was very good at getting things onto the board, but actually closing out a game was something that it very much lacked in. So that was another area that I really wanted to shore up. And then finally, this deck only had a couple ways to protect itself, and being a tribal deck, you're just very weak to board wipes or mass removal and stuff like that. So that was the third area that I really wanted to shore up, and I get what they're going for with the fact that the commander reanimates, so maybe they were thinking, oh, well, if they board wipe, they'll just reanimate all the creatures they lost. It's like, yeah, but then you have to replay your commander, you have to untap with it, you have to attack with it again, and since you're not in red, there's really not very good ways to give it haste, so you really are waiting 2 whole turns before you can start doing that, and it's only 1 every turn. So those were the areas that to me needed the most work and where I spent my budget.
Right. Cool. Well, let's get into it. We're going to talk about the 10 cards for $10. And we're starting with a great category. It's cheap knights.
Yeah, cheap
knights for hire.
These are the knights that, they don't cost too much. They're pretty young, so they're just trying to get their name out there.
Right. You can hire them for nothing. Pennies on the dollar.
And then, eventually they'll grow up, and then they're able to charge a little bit more for their services. But right now, they just got to make a name for themselves.
Right now, they're all just one man.
That's right. Just one man and knights. So the first one is Forsworn Paladin. For a single black, you get a 1/1 creature human knight with menace. It has evasion, which is great.
Yep.
And then you can pay 1 and a black, tap it, pay 1 life to make a treasure token, and you can pay 2 and a black to give target creature +2/+0 until end of turn. And if mana from a treasure was spent to activate the ability, the creature also gains death touch until end of turn. So first off,
great attacker early.
Yeah, so it's a 1-drop creature that can get in early. It has evasion, so it's harder to block. Your opponents have to at least have 2 blockers to block it. So early on, you're going to be able to most reliably get in and start getting that looting going.
Right.
In the late game, when you can no longer get in, you can just start turning into mana a turn into treasure, and it basically lets you stockpile mana, which is really nice. Not wasting any mana every turn is very powerful and a very good effect that you want. And then finally, the last ability, it's just a small pump, but if you do use treasure on it, Death Touch is good, and Death Touch is great with First Strike, which the commander has. So all of that kind of goes together into just really a great 1-drop.
The greatest thing about this set third ability, the 2 and a black that gives something the pump and potentially Death Touch, is most of the time you don't have to activate this.
Right. It has a ton of threat of activation.
Right. So you just go straight to combat. You attack with your 1/1 menace. You have 3 mana. So say you turn 1 you attacked, nobody blocked. Turn 2 you made a treasure. Turn 3 you have 3 mana and a treasure up. Now you just go straight to combat, attack, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna kill both my guys."
Yep.
You just can't. It just gets through, and then you use that 3 mana for something else. Try and keep that treasure around because the Death Touch is a really big part of that. But I love that.
Yeah,
very powerful.
The fact that he has menace and then giving him Death Touch is just very powerful. And as you said, threat to have activation is huge.
I was seeing if it was a lady.
I don't think so.
I think it's a guy.
I think it's a dude. It could be a lady though.
Hard
Who
to
knows?
say.
Yeah. Dealer's choice. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's what it is. All right, the next card is Dauntless Bodyguard. For single white, you get a 2/1 creature human knight. As it enters the battlefield, you choose another creature you control, and then you can sacrifice it to give the chosen creature indestructible. So again, it's just a 1-drop knight that will get in early. If it's your first creature, you're okay because you get to loot. But then any turn after that, it just basically says, I can protect one of my creatures.
Right.
And so being able to play this even before your commander, it's great because you get to loot. And after your commander, it's great because now it's a protection piece where they can't, they can, but it's a lot more difficult for them to now remove your commander.
Right.
Because you can just cash this in to protect it.
Right. So. Yeah, I love pieces like this. It's also a great thing to recur. If you have your commander and it's a 4/3 first strike, you can give it indestructible, and then if it hits, you bring it right back, and now you can give your commander indestructible again, or something else. Hakon, if you like him, if he's around.
Yeah, it's just a very powerful card.
For sure.
A card that I'm very happy to play.
Yeah.
And then our next creature is Changeling Outcast. For single black, you get a 1/1 creature shapeshifter. It has Changeling, so it's every creature type, which includes knights. And it can't block and it can't be blocked. So just a 1/1 unblockable knight.
Perfect. That's exactly what you want in a deck like this. Just free attacks, free looting. You just keep pinging in for just one.
Yep, you play this and you are guaranteed to get that loot on every turn if you want it.
Yeah. And every single one of these knights are so cheap. Forsworn Paladin's only 25 cents. Dauntless Bodyguard is 50 cents. Changeling Outcast is 50 cents. Adding these 1-drop knights is going to make your deck so much faster and more like efficient in the first few turns. And you're only spending what, like $2? No,
you're spending
$1.25.
Yeah.
$1.25 to just really smooth out the first few turns. I love it.
No, yeah. It's fantastic. I couldn't be happier with those choices.
All right, next category. These are the knights they've been working out a little bit.
That's right.
They're starting to earn their pay.
That's right.
They're a little higher mana value.
Yeah,
they also help out their fellow knights.
They've been around for a little bit. The first ones, those were all privates. Here we have, we have some Lance Corporals, maybe some Corporal, some NCOs here. So they've been around the block for a little bit.
Yeah. All right. These are the knights that buff knights.
That's right. So this first one is Silverblade Paladin. This card's coming in at 25 cents. It is 1 white for 2/2 creature human knight. It has Soul Bond. So you may pair this creature with another creature when either of them enters the battlefield, and they remain paired as long as you control both of them. And as long as this Silverblade Paladin is paired with other creatures, both of them have double strike.
Pretty good.
So it increases the power of any knight you play, but really the most important thing is it comes in at 3, your commander comes in at 4, and now both have double strike, and your commander has a combat damage trigger.
Yep.
Which means you're now reanimating 2 knights every time it hits.
Very powerful.
Yeah. So
because you can loot, so you turn 1, if you have one of the little 1-drops, you draw a discard. Turn 2, draw a discard. Turn 3, Silver Paladin. Turn 4, Commander. Turn 5, reanimate a ton. You've discarded 4 cards at this point.
Yeah, so now you could reanimate 2 if they were knights,
those?
which is great.
Really powerful. Really cool.
Yep.
And it's only 25 cents.
Yeah, which is awesome. Just for a quarter, you can have that card. The next one is Mirror Entity. It is coming in at 50 cents right now because it's been reprinted quite a few times. And
for good reason.
Yeah, it's a great card. And it's great in basically any tribal deck.
Yeah.
So 2 and a white for 1/1 creature shapeshifter. It has Changeling, so it's every creature type. And you can pay X until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So it's just an anthem.
Yeah.
Which this deck really needed. It needed another way to finish out the game. And this basically says if you have enough mana, you're just going to win.
Right. Because you can turn all of your creatures, including your unblockable 1/1s, your little menace creatures, into 6/6s and 7/7s. And these are real problems, especially combined with the Knight Classic of First Strike. It's just okay, so I'm going to block all this stuff, lose my whole board, and
you lose nothing.
Still have all your stuff.
Yep.
Great.
Just a very powerful card. And a card you really want to see in any tribal deck that are in these colors, and you are, so you should be running it.
Definitely.
The next one is another finisher that we have. It's Sky Hunter Strike Force. It's a new card. Coming in only at 50 cents. For 2 and a white, you get a 2/2 creature Cat Knight. It has flying. It has melee. So whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. So up to +3/+3 if you attack 3 opponents. And Lieutenant, as long as you control your commander, other creatures you control have melee. So this basically says
so good.
Whenever you attack, creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn, as long as you're attacking all of your opponents.
And you've got these little evasive guys to allow you to attack more freely. Plus it has flying, so it really helps out with this. This card is great. And I really like the card Adriana, Captain of the Guard, which has a similar effect. It gives all creatures melee. And that card is so underplayed. It's cheap and it gives +3/+3 is a huge buff.
Right,
and
that's an overrun.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to kill everybody. If it clips in for you hit with a couple of creatures, you deal 12 damage. It's Jesus, what?
Yeah, and this is so powerful because this comes in at 3. Adriana costs 5.
Costs 5.
So
this is 3 and has flying.
Right, so you're getting a huge rebate at the low cost of just having your commander out, which you'd probably want anyways because of its abilities. So yeah, this card is just fantastic. Just getting an overrun every turn, and on top of that, the fact that this creature you can play it and attack with other creatures, and they still get that melee. You don't have to attack with this at all.
Yeah.
So it is a overrun effect anytime you need it.
Yeah, really powerful. Sky Hunter Strike Force. Only 50 cents. Oh, this next one is not a knight, but it is great in this deck.
Yes, this card I was really happy about. And another card that I had in my upgrade guide for Shorkai. It is Wonder. For 3 and a blue, you have a 2/2 creature. It's an incarnation. It has flying. You don't care about any of that.
No.
But the thing you care about is as long as it's in your graveyard, creatures you control have flying.
But how are we going to get it in the graveyard,
Well, I'm
Damen?
glad you asked. You see, your commander has a free loot effect. It doesn't even have to be in play to get that loot effect.
Really-
And so Wonder says,
really very
hey, I'm in your graveyard. You control an island. Great. All of your creatures have flying. All of your creatures have one of the best evasion abilities in the game.
Really, really powerful.
Yeah, and Wonder's only 50 cents right now.
Yeah, that's great.
So
Pick up Wonder right now. Also, if you have any kind of graveyard deck or any kind of discard deck, it's just so powerful.
yeah, anytime you have a way to freely discard cards, Wonder is great because giving all of your creatures flying is great offensively because now you can get in on people, and defensively because now all of their little flyers can no longer hit you.
Right. Yeah, you're very difficult to attack, and you're also extremely aggressive. Love it. All right, the other thing we talked about at the beginning is you want to shore up the protection of this deck. Make sure that your board just doesn't disappear on you to some board wipe.
Yeah, you really want to be resilient against board wipes in any tribal-based deck, and this card does exactly that. So it's Guardian of the Faith. This is the most expensive card that I'm adding. It's $4.50. It is 1 white for a 3/2 creature human, Spirit Knight, sorry. It has Flash and Vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, any number of other creatures you control phase out. So you can just phase out your board at instant speed for 3 mana on a night. It doesn't protect itself, so it'll die to the board wipe, but you just saved your board.
Yeah.
So you don't care.
Guardian of Faith is really powerful because it doesn't just protect you from destruction. Like it gets around Cyclonic Rifts and it gets them around washouts and like bounce spells or exile spells, sacrifice board wipes.
Yep.
This is like protection against everything, especially when you know that you're like, we've got Knight Exemplar, which gives indestructible. We've got the little 1/2 Knight or 2/1 Knight, the Dauntless Bodyguard we were just talking about, that gives indestructible. We're going to have a lot of protection from removal, but we're going to be weak to Toxic Deluges and Cyclonic Rifts and that kind of thing.
Right.
Guardian of Faith really fills that hole. All right, the other thing that we talked about trying to fill up was the removal suite, the targeted removal suite.
Yeah, it was a little bit short. It wasn't atrocious or anything, but I wanted a little bit more removal. So the first one is great because it's a knight. It's Cavalier of Night. It's coming in at $1.50. It is a 2 black for a 4/5 creature elemental knight. It has lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice another creature, and when you do, you destroy target creature an opponent controls. And whenever this thing dies, you return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard straight onto the battlefield.
There's a lot of cheap knights.
Yep.
There's a lot of cheap knights this can bring back.
It can bring back your Knight Exemplar.
There you go.
So, yeah. And
It's so good in this deck.
it's great because you can pitch it early because it's an expensive card. You can then reanimate it, get the removal off of it. Then when it dies, you reanimate something else, and then you can, again, reanimate it later. Or if you draw it later, you can just play it, do all of those effects, and then if it ever dies, you just loop it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just very powerful and a great knight.
And a great night.
A great knight. And
What a great night.
yeah, and it's black, so I guess it's having a good night.
Yeah.
All right. This last piece of interaction is not a knight. It is a spell. It is Dark Withering, coming in at 25 cents. So normally it is 4 black for an instant, destroy target non-black creature, but you don't care about that because it has madness for single black.
Single black, destroy target non-black creature. I love the inclusion of madness in this deck. You've got a free looter in the command zone. It's impossible to interact with. You take advantage of it, discard, cast the spell for basically free. 1 black is nothing.
Yeah, 1 black is like actually nothing. It's Path to Exile, but except you get to destroy, and it basically says, oh, you had to discard a card to loot. Well, now you don't because you get to cast the spell on its way out.
And it cantrips.
Yep, and it cantrips,
Very
which is just
strong.
very powerful. And then on top of that, this deck just randomly has a couple ways to discard. So Sidar is not the only way to get that effect, but the fact that you have it guaranteed in your command zone is just so powerful.
Yeah, I really like it. If you're into the madness thing, look at the other madness cards. There's some cool stuff you can do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With a free looter. All right, your budget came in at $9.25. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 75 cents to spare.
Yeah,
Pretty happy with that.
You could buy so many things with 75 cents.
That's right. You can get like bubble gum, probably. Probably?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm sure you could buy like 50-cent bubble gum
You could
somewhere.
probably buy like pretty medium bubble gum for 75 cents.
You could do those, the penny presses where you have to put in a penny and then 50 cents. You could do that and then still have a quarter.
There you go.
There you go. If you want to go get a penny pressed, that's what I'm here for. So you can get all of your pressed pennies that you desire. Get one that is like night themed, used as a night token. I don't know.
That's fun.
Yeah.
He's got ideas too.
I'm the ideas man. That's what they called me.
So with a tighter budget, that means that some of the cards that we have included in the past get pushed out a little bit. But we like to include them in an honorable mention section, where if you want to spend a little bit more, if you want to invest in this deck, you're like, you know what? I'm in on Knights all the way.
I'm the Knights guy. I got a Knight tattoo,
exactly.
I Knight and my side, and my free time.
Look, if anybody's the Knights guy, it's Josh and Jimmy, right?
I suppose, yeah. They are literally the game Knights, right? So this is for Josh and Jimmy, I guess.
Yeah, so these are a couple cards that you could buy that would be great in the deck if you want to get a little bit spendier.
All right, so the first card we have here is Kinsbale Cavalier, coming in at $3. Mm-hmm. It is 3 and a white for a 2/2 creature Kithkin Knight, and it just says, Knight creatures you control have double strike.
Pretty good.
It's just another great finisher. Again, giving the commander double strike is fantastic because it has a combat damage trigger, and giving all of your creatures double strike just makes combat impossible for your opponents and kills them very, very quickly.
Yeah, I love this. And it's something that the deck does pretty well, is give a little bit of a buff. So if you want to spend the money somewhere else, you can. But it's so good, and he's riding on a goat.
Yes, that's
he's
right.
He's riding on a little goat.
I didn't even notice the goat. I just noticed him like there just T-posing.
Yeah.
That's how he gives double strike. All of your knights now T-pose.
Now you have to buy Kinsbale Cavalier because the art is so good.
And I love, again, it's a creature that you can just play and then it does its effect. You don't have to attack with it or do anything else. It just says, hey, your stuff has double strike.
It just helps out his friends.
Yeah.
That's a good night.
It's a very good night. The next card is Battle Angels of Tyr. It is 2 white for a 4/4 creature Angel Knight with flying and myriad. And whenever Battle Angels of Tyr deals combat damage to a player, draw a card if the player has more cards in hand than each other player. Then you create a treasure token if that player controls more lands than each other player. Then you gain 3 life if that player has more life than each other player. And this card is $17, which is why I didn't make the budget.
Yeah.
But it's a knight.
It's such a good night, too.
Yeah, it's absurd. It gives you card advantage, mana, and life, which are the 3 main resources of this game.
It's
it does
are you
all
behind
of the things.
at all? You could be a little less behind.
Yeah. Are you behind at all? Well, you're not now.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you're hitting all 3 players with 4/4 flyers.
Yeah. Just a 4/4 on rate flyer. That happens to be a knight. So it triggers the commander. It can be reanimated. It does all of the things that you want to be doing.
Yeah, if you're getting into knights, I'd consider Battle Angels of Tyr. Very cool card.
100%.
All right, we have added 10 cards. Means we have to do the hardest thing in deck building. We have to take cards away, 10 of them. So here are the cards that we're removing from the deck to make room for the ones we added.
That's right. It's it's always a grueling task making cuts in your deck, but there were some in here that were like, we don't need that.
Sure.
First one on this list is going to be Maul of the Cyclaves, 2 and a white for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, you can attach it to a creature you control, so that's cool. The equipped creature gets +2/+2 with flying and first strike and has equipped for 4. This deck doesn't care about equipment at all. The Mardu Knights deck does, but Esper doesn't. It's really not a thing Esper does.
Right. It's more of a Boros thing than an Azorius or
Orzhov
Dimir,
thing. Or Dimir thing. Yeah. None of them care about equipment. So, this was a card that I was like, oh, okay, I get it because they're knights and they have swords, but they already came with their own swords. They don't need this one.
It's not even a sword.
It's a maul. Yeah. I don't know. They don't need it. They really don't need it. And they really don't need the evasion. We have Wonder for that and the other things.
For sure.
The next one is the Sigiled Sword of Valoron. It's a 3 mana equipment. The equipped creature goes +2/+2, has vigilance, and is a knight in addition to its other types. And whenever the equipped creature attacks, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance that's attacking. Those are all really good things until it says equip 3. You have to pay 6 before you get any of that.
I've thought about putting this card into decks before, and it just feels so expensive. Like casting it on 3, casting a creature on 4, using 5 to equip is just like
it's
and then you
too
get
much.
a 2/2 and it's attacking, and they block it.
Yeah, and then they kill it.
You're like,
that's
great, this has all been worth it.
Yeah, and you don't need the turn it into a knight thing because every creature in here is a knight except for Wonder now, but you don't want to play that. You discard it. So this one just doesn't do the things that you want it to do.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah. If it were cheaper, I could see it, but at 3 and 3, that's way too much.
For sure.
The next one is Time Wipe. It's 2 white blue for sorcery. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand and destroy all creatures. This card's fine. Yeah. It's just this deck already had 3 board wipes, and I think 2 is the right number.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a toss-up of which one to remove, and this one just seemed to me to be the worst of the 3.
Okay.
So
I think that is completely flair.
I agree. It is pretty flair.
It is pretty flair.
Yeah. The next one, this one, and one other card that we'll get to later, I think are probably the best cards that I cut. But there's a good reason I'll get into it. So this one is Zared's Strobe Knight. It's 2 and a blue for a 2/2 creature human knight. It has flying and vigilance, so good. And it has tap to create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance and activate only if you cast 2 or more spells this turn. So I do think there's probably a build somewhere that works with this. But the way that this deck is constructed, as we said earlier, it only had one drop knight.
Right.
It really doesn't have that many cheap things. It has a lot of 3 drops and 4 drops. So you're just not going to be double spelling very often, if at all. So maybe you get one knight, but that's probably not worth it.
Right.
I suspect that somebody will build a build out there, or maybe myself will do it, where this will work. But as this deck stands, it really doesn't fit.
Right. This seems like a knight card that doesn't necessarily go in knight decks. Like this goes more in, like, I have a Spellslinger deck that is often double spelling, and you need defensive cards or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, a little strange, especially in a deck that's so aggressive. Often double spelling like just runs you into a board wipe.
Yeah, because you want to play a threat and then have some protection up, or maybe a removal spell or something. So this one just doesn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable.
Yeah,
it's a cool card though.
Yeah, it's neat. I think it's very cool, but it just doesn't quite do it. The next card is a card that I hate. It's Josu Vest, Lich Knight.
Poor Josu Vest.
It's 2 black for a 4/5 legendary creature zombie knight. It has kicker for 5 and a black, as menace, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you make 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with menace. I hate this card because it's like the biggest trap card in the world. Because like the one time you do it, you're like, this card's amazing. There's nothing that does it. And then every other time you're like, this is horrible. It's a 4-mana 4/5 with menace. Like, yes, if you do the thing one time, it's maybe cool until they board wipe. But
yeah,
it just...
It either wins the game or it wastes your time.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't do the things.
And the amount of time that like 8 2/2s is going to win you the game is not... it is probably not enough.
Yeah. If you could kick it out of the graveyard with Sidar, then I'd consider it. But the fact that you don't even get that option when you reanimate it, it's just like, no,
you just
absolutely not.
Yep.
The next one is Knight of the Last Breath. It is 5 white and a black for a 4/4 creature giant knight. You can pay 3 and sack another non-token creature to create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying, and it has Afterlife 3, so when it dies, you create 3 of those spirits with flying.
It's so expensive.
Yeah. First off, it costs too much. On top of that, it's not even a very good reanimation payoff. So, like, I think what they're going for is, oh, you discard it early and then you reanimate it. But then you're like, well, I just have a 4/4 ground creature. And yeah, it dies. I get 3 1/1s, but they're not even knights.
Yeah.
And then 3 to sack something is way too much.
That's very, very expensive.
The most I want to pay for a sack out is like 1.
Is 1. Yeah. It's just too expensive, sort of all around. And the fact that it's 7 mana for a 4/4, it's just like,
yeah. If you ever have to hardcast that, you're in a bad place.
Brutal.
Next one we have is Arvad the Cursed. It's 3 white and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature vampire knight. It has Death Touch and Lifelink, which I love. But it says other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. It's neat. There's just not enough legendary creatures in the deck.
There's not a ton of them, especially with cutting Josu and cutting the next card. You're slimming down the legendaries a little bit, and there's just not enough to justify it at all.
Yeah, and having just a 5 mana 3/3 Death Touch Lifelink, while cool, is not very good.
Yeah, hard to block, but
that's about all it does.
That's about it. Yeah.
All right, next one we have is Sir Eleonora the Discerning. 3 white for a star 4 legendary creature human knight. Sir Eleonora's power is equal to the number of cards in your hand, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and then spells your opponents cast to target it, cost 2 more to cast. And so it replaces itself, which I guess is cool.
Yeah.
But you don't want to pay 5 for that effect. And by then, it's not going to be that big. I guess if you reanimate it a few times, you technically got card advantage, but it just doesn't quite do enough.
Yeah, you really want a big juicy reanimation target if you're going to cast your commander for 4 and you're going to swing and you're going to connect and I draw a card.
Yeah.
Got one over on them. It feels a little bit expensive for what it does.
Yeah, it doesn't do it.
It might also be more focused on Elenda and Azor, which is more of a drawing.
Yeah, more cares about the card draw. I do like the idea though that like we have this Esper Knights deck and Sir Eleonora is a blue knight from Eldraine, and we know we're going to Eldraine later, so that's potentially a hint that we might be getting more knights in the future. Maybe. I'm excited at the prospect of that at the very least.
For sure. Yeah.
And then next one we have is the next card that I think it's pretty good. It just doesn't quite do enough, which is Liliana Standard Bearer, 2 and a black for 3/1 creature zombie knight with flash. It enters the battlefield. You draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures that died under your control this turn. Neat in that, after a board wipe, you get to refill your hand. It sucks that I would rather just protect my board.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
This card is amazing in aristocrat builds where you're I'm going to sack 7 creatures and I'm going to draw 7 cards and I cast all these creatures and reanimate the thing that made a ton of creatures. And that's the decks that it really shines. I don't love it as board protection because you have all those cards in your hand, but you still have to rebuild.
Yep. So again, I just rather have board protection than some way to refill your hand. I think you could potentially make a Knight Aristocrats deck, which would be cool, but the way that this is, it doesn't do that.
Just not quite at that point. Yeah, might be another one that's better for Azor and Elenda.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can see that because you're making all those tokens.
Knights, you're making a ton of them. Yeah, but not quite as good with Sidar.
Yeah. And then and then the last card I cut is Temple of the False God. The card's bad.
No, it's not.
It's a bad card.
People play it wrong.
I mean, it's a ramp piece that you need 5 lands to have, but no.
Yeah, Temple's very slow, and I think the idea is you can loot it away early and you can play it later as ramp, but there are 39 lands in the deck. It's not super important that you have that many lands, or even that you ramp necessarily. Like, most of your curve is trying to stay low, trying to stay nimble. Like, having 2 colorless isn't a huge boon in a 3-color deck.
Yeah, so you touched on it. The 39 lands is a huge thing. It does not need that many lands. And to me, anytime I'm playing a 3 or more color deck, I am very particular about what colorless lands go on that deck.
For sure.
I'm very selective.
Yeah.
This is not even close to being on that list of cards that I would even consider.
Yeah.
You really want all of your lands to tap for at least one of your colors, if not more. And the fact that this is just a straight up colorless land, it doesn't do anything early when you want to be building your board. And late, yeah, sure, it ramped you for 1, but you were potentially stuck on lands earlier, so you're just catching up with where you already would have been if you had any other card in your deck.
Right.
Or now you have 2 colorless and you can't really use it to good effect because you're in 3 colors and you want your blue, white, and black.
Right. Yeah. I think that's completely fair. Definitely want to make sure you have your pips in this deck because you're going to want to cast your 1-drops early and get moving. So I can see you getting rid of Temple of the False God here.
It's bad. You heard it here first.
It's not that
it's bad. It's not good.
Not. Just
take it out. Replace it with literally anything else.
It's fine. 1 or 2 colors. It's fine.
All right.
Let's talk about how the deck actually works. Let's say we bought the deck, we upgraded it, everything's sleeved. We are in our Ultra Pro deck box and have the playmat and the sleeves, and we've shown up at our game store. What is the dream game? How does the dream game play out?
Yeah, so I wanted to make a really important note with this because most tribal decks traditionally, and especially Knights, have been very aggressive decks. This deck, looking at it and playtesting it a few times, it is not as aggressive as most tribal decks. It is much more of a mid-range deck. What it wants is you play an early creature, you start that looting, and basically throughout the course of the game, you are going to win because you have higher card quality over your opponents. That's its big advantage is you can, while your opponents are top decking and hitting lands or cards that they don't care about, you have a huge card selection that they just don't have access to, looting every turn basically for free. So it's much more of a mid-range deck where you have these early creatures you're looting, then you play the commander, you have some anthems, and then you're able to reanimate these big beaters, big anthems and stuff like that to close out the game. Yeah. But it really is about gradual advantage over time as opposed to just getting in early and trying to eliminate 1 or 2 players as quickly as possible.
The Esper way.
It is the Esper way, which I love. This is like exactly the kind of tribal deck that I love. So
I think this deck looks like a ton of fun to play.
Yeah.
Very careful, very slow, a lot of grindy value. It's what I really think like White brings to the table in Commander, and this deck uses it really well.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right, to the listeners, what do you think about the Cavalry Charge Precon? Any cards that we missed that you're like, this has to go in the deck? Of course. Any cards we suggested to take out or add that you disagree with? You're like, what? Are you Are you insane?
Yeah, tell me I'm wrong. At me on Twitter, call me out, tell me how horrible I am, and how my choices are the worst possible choices, and how good Temple of the False God is. I want to hear it.
We love having comments, though. Like, that's one of my favorite things about these videos is when
sure.
people get in and are like, you should have added this. And I'm like, I totally should have thought of that.
Yeah.
So make sure that you communicate your great ideas because it's fun. It's fun to talk about, and we'll definitely be in the comment section looking for those.
100%.
And if you heard any cards that you're like, I gotta get this Arvad the Cursed, I gotta get him. I know you cut him, but I want one for me. Go to cardkingdom.com/command to pick up any of the cards that we talked about or any of the cards in this Precon or the Precon itself. Card Kingdom has a great selection of singles and sealed product that you can pick up, and they will ship to you all in one tidy package. So you can order all of the cards from this upgrade guide. You can click buy, and it'll show up all at the same time. You can sleeve, and the Precon. You can buy the Precon, the 10 cards, have them all shipped to you, and then you can sleeve them up in your Ultra Pro sleeves and take them right to the game store. I love using Card Kingdom. I always trust them with my huge orders, especially when I'm building a deck and want it all to show up at the same time so I can get playing. cardkingdom.com/command. And while you're supporting the show, we appreciate it if you'd use our other affiliate link at ultrapro.com. ULTRAPRO has some of my favorite gaming accessories, especially the dice. They make these great numerical dice that are so easy to read. I play a lot of Spell Table, and I want to make sure that my board state is clear and everybody knows what's going on, even if we're working over like a grainy internet connection. ULTRAPRO has the best products to do that. Plus, they have the coolest secret layer drops of playmats. They have like the Transformers one was awesome. They did double-sided Transformers playmats.
Oh yeah, that one was sick.
I bought the like rainbow Lisa Frankie one with a unicorn on it that they had. These playmats go so fast. Yeah, the Nils Ham one was
that
awesome.
one was very cool. That one was
It was like glittery. So they're releasing all of these limited release playmats that you have to be going to the website regularly to make sure that you know what they're releasing and you can keep up with that. You can also support the show by buying ULTRAPRO at your local game store. But if you can't find it there, go to ultrapro.com/command and get everything that you need.
Yeah, and consider subscribing to their newsletter.
Yeah.
I know this won't apply to you guys, but just this past weekend, they had a flash sale.
Yeah.
And so I got a little email. It's like, hey, we have a flash sale until Sunday. And I was like, what? So I just went on, bought a bunch of stuff that I had already wanted to buy. I have a little like watch list that I keep on their website. And so I was able to buy a ton of stuff at a really good rate because of the sale that just randomly happened for no reason. And they do those kind of things pretty frequently. I'd just say to all of you, consider subscribing to their newsletter because you'll find out about these really cool sales and make sure you use our affiliate link, ultrapro.com/command, and buy all the things that you were going to buy anyways, just at a discounted rate.
And you can support the show. Okay, now we're going to move to the end step, and we're going to talk about something outside the world of Magic. Talked about lots of Magic today. What have you been enjoying outside of Magic?
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of true crime stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I love those kind of like unsolved cases and all of those like mysteries and stuff. In particular, there's this one guy on YouTube called MrBallen, and he's actually a retired Navy SEAL. And he started making these videos, I think just a couple years ago, and I just stumbled upon him. And the way that he does these true crime videos are incredible because basically what he does is he does all this back research. He looks up, interviews for people that were in the area, interviews of, family and stuff like that. And he tells it back to you as a story. So he basically says, this thing happened, and he goes into really detail about the environment and what these people were thinking as these things were happening. And this guy's version of storytelling is incredible, and I just find myself hooked time and time again. And so it's my go-to when I'm driving to and from work is I just listen to this guy. I joke like with my family. I'm like, this guy's just telling me bedtime stories, and it's like all these stories about unsolved cases and people being murdered or going missing and stuff like that. But it's really interesting and very engaging. So
One more time for what's his name?
Yeah, so MrBallen. So if you guys are a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, that's all he does, and he uploads once a week. So definitely check him out. A huge shout out to him again, also being from the military. So I really appreciate his videos and what he does. And I think if you're into true crime, you will love what he does and the kind of storytelling he does.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your help today, Damon. We're going to say thank you to the rest of our team here at the Command Zone. Thank you to Craig Blanchett, Arthur Meadowcroft, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Jordan Pridgeon, Sam Waldo, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Mitch Trafford, Evan Liburger, Gabriel Bozos, Megan Yip, Eric Lem, Josh Lee Kwai, and Jimmy Wong.
Very nice. You only need one breath there.
I needed a big one.
Yeah.
I had to steal a big one. Thank you to our huge team. They make the best stuff. And thank you for listening and for supporting the show.
Yeah, thank you everybody out there.
See you next time.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.